Welcome to Sound of Hope News. I'm your host, Wei Fang.
I'm Kathy Zhang.
And so today we'll be bringing you to the very big, battle, the biggest battle probably these days, and it will become even more intensive. So this is triggered by the election reform bill that was passed just last week, right?
Right.
Yeah, this is in Georgia. And then that just ignited a lot of fire. In the meantime, 641 bills in 47 states aimed at tightening up the election and to ensure the election integrity is moving along in the state legislatures. In the meantime, more than 863 bill that means to loosen the election requirement so that to in the name of providing more access to the election is moving along in the 47 state too. So in the meantime, we do have the HR 1, as you know, House Resolution 1 that is moving in the Congress, in the House and in the Senate. So that's the main news of today, and I think the HR 1 will become the biggest battle of this year, and it will trigger a lot of things. So that's our topic today. So Kathy, what happened in Georgia?
Okay, yeah, so just to give a review of what happened in Georgia, which passed a comprehensive voting bill, SB 202, and was signed into law by Governor Brian Kemp on March 25th. So this bill, the lawmakers saying that they just wanted to restore people's confidence in the election system.
Mm-hmm.
So what does it do, right? So first of all, let's see just a couple of highlights of what this bill does. So this bill will require a driver license number, state ID number, or other document to request and cast an absentee ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it will also limit absentee ballot drop box to locations inside early voting sites
mm-hmm.
during regular hours. So actually, the other side of the fact is that currently, the total 159 counties, which out of them, 134 of them didn't really have a drop box. Okay, so which, according to this law, will require one. And the other what it does is set a deadline to request an absentee ballot
mm-hmm.
for 11 days before the election day, and also will prohibit food from being distributed to voters waiting in the line. Okay, and also it basically it strips the Secretary of State of his role as a chair of the state election board and provide the state officials more authority around how the election will going to be conducted. So yeah, there are also other things like mandate runoff 4 weeks after the election and create partisan primaries for special elections. So a lot of things, but those are the main points. But it actually naturally got opposition from the Democratic side. They are criticizing this bill is limiting voter access, making voting more difficult, and were leading long lines on the election day, and one Democrat state representative saying people just like the drop box, but why you just have someone sit there, and it's a form of intimidation because it requires a guard, someone to look after this box.
And let me insert here. So in our earlier program, in the Chinese language program, and we ask our viewers what they think about that. So when you have a drop box there and then you got somebody standing by, would that be intimidating?
Mm-hmm.
Would that be intimidating? I further just suggest them that think about it, that person, let's say is a policeman, would you feel intimidated? And then in China, in our experience, when you're on the street, you got a policeman standing by you, you feel kind of nervous. Could he find trouble with me? Because I know that he has the power. Police can stop anyone on the street, and for whatever reason, with reason, without reason, ask you for ID. Not just in China, in Europe, it's like that. Okay, but in China, when you have police around you, you feel very unsafe. Interesting enough, in this country, my feeling is when I on the street, I see a policeman nearby, I feel safe. So I asked my Chinese audience, so what do you think? Do you feel safe or not? So the answer I got, of course, we feel safer. And so while at this ballot place, right, this ballot box, you got somebody standing there, so who will be afraid? Right? Who will be afraid? That's a question probably not hard to answer at all.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I saw Alan Burning just supported us with donation. Thank you so much, Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah. All right. So, and also, right now, actually, since last Wednesday, after this law was signed, many U.S. companies actually starting to attack Georgia's new law. So, including like those companies which are based in Georgia, like Delta Airlines. Its CEO sent a memo to its staff saying that the Voting Reform Act could make it harder for more Georgians, especially for those who in the black and the brown communities to exercise their right to vote without, just to borrow a phrase, without substantial evidence saying that. And they said the final bill is unacceptable and does not match Delta's value. And then we also know Coca-Cola, who had less white training, right? So the CEO of Coca-Cola said this bill is unacceptable, wrong, and a step backward. And other companies like UPS, Bank of America, Merck, and today Apple CEO Tim Cook came out to say this, to join the list of those companies. And the other thing is the Major League Baseball. Today they announced that it will be moving the All-Star game from Atlanta in response to Georgia's voting bill passed.
Yeah, so I want to take this opportunity to ask you a question because I'm indeed curious. I don't pretend I know everything in this country because I came here after I'm 22, right? I was 22. I came here. I did not grow up here. For things happening in China, I can say that indeed I lived through that. I know enough. But in this country, my past knowledge is that companies like big companies, we're not talking about a young startup, okay, run by young people, high-tech company run by young people in their 20s or 30s. They grew up, they learn enough about how to say the appeal of the socialism, and they have this all equality type of I can say it's fantasy, right? We're talking about this Fortune 500, Dow Jones 30 company, and their CEO, like a Coca-Cola CEO, is in his 56-year-old, right? He's a Brit. He's a Brit. Okay, he's
Britain.
not. He didn't grow up here. And then those people, they used to, okay, they donate. They give political they donated to both parties because their main purpose is to make money, right? Run the business, broaden their customer base, and then just make money. Of course, they wanted to appear to be, have a good name, just serve as the conscience of the society. We understand that part. But in this particular case, they are all clearly taking side. I'm just very curious about what got them to do that. Don't they know that, like a Coca-Cola, think about that, right? When you upset a major camp of people, they probably will not buy you a Coke. Think about that. Coca-Cola is essentially just sugar water, right? It's a sugar water. It's sugared water. And then it is sell because of its good name, because of brand name.
Yeah, and there is for example, Twitter users saying that, dear Coca-Cola, my family has held the Coca-Cola stock for over 90 years. No longer. You trade with China and the other, not a word, but let Georgia demand to verify that a voter is who they say they are, and then you go nuts.
Why did those big companies, those Fortune 500, Dow Jones 30 company would take side in such a way? Okay, I'm very curious. I don't know. To be honest,
so
I
what's
don't
your
know.
take? We'd like to hear
Why?
from you.
Those board members, they went through Cold War. They know what is communism. They are not as naive as those 20-year-old, and then they still do this kind of thing. I just don't understand.
Okay,
All right.
Mark said pressure from leftist group.
Okay, is it that big? And because the pressure, when they do something like this, I already saw, right? I think Twinkly, 1974, is going to give up Coke. It's just sugar water. Okay, Twinkly is not the only person who would do that. They're hurting their customer base without a clear benefit. So that's what puzzles me. Okay, and they just, can you share with us what's the reason why they would take side like that? And so Newt Gingrich, that the former House Speaker, he wrote an article. I read it today, and he pretty much said his staff go to his boss and saying that you have to be bold, you have to be tough here, and this is you should make this statement. And he just did that. And Gingrich said this would undermine his public authority, I think, public name or authority, whatever, right? So in the same line of how I was saying earlier.
Yeah, well, Alan shared that he thinks a lot of people agree with them. You can't fight racism with more racism. And so basically you're saying, a lot of people just agree with, they have the same thinking, right?
Mm-hmm. So which means the Georgia law is viewed as a racist law? Is that
right? Yeah, well, when they claim this law is a racist, then people can argue with that.
Right.
They always give you a label.
Yeah.
That's what happened in China, Cultural Revolution. Once you label someone, then you cannot fight with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and Judy Marshall, you said big business wants to not to get canceled themselves. They succumb to the pressure of the left. They want to be on the side of who's politically correct these days. Yes, I think you are right. But still, it still puzzles me. If I got a chance to talk to them, I would remind them that you survive, you make money, you make profit based upon your customer base. Okay, because they are so big. They're big enough, they won't be easily bought out.
Yeah.
And they,
Yeah, I think one that can only be my understanding or just a guess probably is that, one thing is we all know the media, social media, all left-leaning, right? And those company CEOs, they probably, when they read the newspaper or surf the internet, what they saw is wow, it's all just one voice, right? Racism is such a big thing, and also, our audience said that they probably got some pressure from the leftist group, because when you have a loud voice, either through certain group or through the media, then those CEOs just feel, that's the trend I should go with, and that they probably mistakenly think that's where their customer bases are. I don't know.
Yeah, you could be right. I think you could be right. And Gingrich went on, he said this. Basically, the logic is if they literally, right, these big companies literally went out of their way to make statement like this, right, against the state of Georgia. And then, of course, in the name of upholding social justice. And while they also sell Coke in China, right? And in the face of the genocide, literally, this is genocide against the Uyghurs and the Tibetans and the Falun Gong practitioners and underground church, okay, all those persecution, they dare not say the thing. We know that they say nothing. They really uphold no social justice in China, but they would be so hard.
Yeah, you're talking about
country.
Delta, and today actually Senator Marco Rubio was calling on Delta to condemn the Chinese Communist Party's genocide of the Uyghurs, right? Because in 2015, Delta Airlines purchased a 3.55% stake in the China Eastern Airline for $450 million. So they become a shareholder, right? And they just described the relationship with China Eastern as a long-standing and a really effective partnership. So Rubio just challenged them. On one hand, you just pressure Georgia's voting law, but on the other hand, you are facing a genocidal regime. You don't say anything, but you rather be a partner with them. So there's some saying like, is Georgia more repressive than CCP, right? I think that's a good question.
Yeah. So basically, when it is it takes guts. When it's dangerous, they don't do it. When it's safe, it's very, very easy to do, especially hit on something weak, and then they would do that. And that's not a company of conscience that uphold social justice, right?
Yeah, I think following up on that, I think people probably just need to let them know, because actually I want to share with you another piece of news. This is a poll did by AP, and it was released today. It's showing that an overwhelmingly majority of Americans actually they agree with voter ID. So the poll shows that 72% of the polled who they support some sort of a voter identification requirements. Among them, 91% are Republicans, 56% are Democrats.
And mind you, this is the poll from AP, and AP was twice, was wrong twice in 2016 and 2020 on the election the polling, right? So what I can only say, what you can trust is at least 72% of the polled people supported some sort of a voter identification. And talking about voter identification, there's a lot of places that you need to vote, voter identification. For example, Jeff Bezos, right? And when his company, the workers, employees want to form a labor union, and then they want to, they want to do.
Yeah, they require voter ID.
Yeah,
require ID.
How to say the mailing vote? The mailing vote. He said no, you have to show ID. You have to in place. But he really advocate that in our federal election. You just use the mailing vote.
Right, and also in California, we reported before, right, where there's a recall of the governor going on, but at the petition has already completed and over 2 million signatures, but those signatures have to be verified by the Office of Secretary of State. Right, so people are saying, isn't that double standard? Because in California, when you go to vote, they cannot require you to show an ID. But when you try to recall the governor, the signature has to be verified. So what kind of standard this is? So, yeah, and what do you think of that?
Yeah, and then in many blue states these days, when you get a vaccination, right? Vaccination, you need to show ID. You need a photo ID to get a vaccination, but you don't need that. You don't need that when you vote, participate in the federal elections. So that's where we are. Anyway, so let's move on quickly on to this HR1. And as we know, I need to correct myself, okay? It's like 361 proposed laws in 47 states to tighten the election. And that's 43% increase over last month. And in the meantime, on the other side, 843 bills that is expanding voter access. I want to put a quote on both ends of that. Okay, expand the voter access has been introduced across 47 states too. All right, so a lot of how to say battles. Okay, legislature battles happen in the state legislatures across the world. Across the nation. Then in the meantime, for in the Congress, right, HR1 is moving forward. As we all know, that HR1 is basically a federal takeover. And I want to say a few words here, okay? If our DJ can you play the HR1 context, the F1, and how can Nancy Pelosi push this bill? She needs to have ground, right? And this is the ground. This is the Article 1, Section 4, and Item 1 in the Constitution. It's called a time, place, and a manner clause. All right. What does it say? It says the times, places, and the manner of holding elections for senators and the representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. Very clearly said. Very clearly said, right? State legislature decide on the time, place, and the manner. But the second half of the sentence said, but the Congress may at any time, by law, make or alter such regulations. This is the base of Nancy Pelosi, the House Speaker, on starting that H.R. 1 and pushing that through. So for any non-legal people, any amateur, they would look at this. What does this mean? Both has rights? Nancy Pelosi seems to have a sound ground there.
Yeah, like a final say, right?
Right.
Sounds like.
He says that the Congress may at any time alter these things, and that's exactly what she's intending to do. And he is constitutional, right? He's doing the thing that the Constitution gave her to do. Is that right? Is that right? That's why I want to explore that a little bit. Okay, there's this gentleman. He's a professor. He's a former constitutional law professor. His name is Rob Nettleson. Rob Nettleson. He's a senior fellow in the constitutional jurisprudence at the Independent Institute in Denver. Okay. All right, and he's also the author of a book called "The Original Constitution: What It Actually Said and meant." All right, okay. Let me share you his point of view. He tells us that this times, places, and manner clause is not what just appeared to your eyes. And originally, when the founding fathers was writing the Constitution, and they put this thing into the into the text, that triggered a lot of pushback. Okay, and then first there's two things. Okay, first the text clearly said the Congress power applies only to congressional elections, does not apply to a presidential contest. All right. Okay. So this is what H.R. 1 already skipped. H.R. 1 said they cover presidential election, but the text that was highlighted cover only the senators and the representatives.
Right.
So first H.R. 1 extend that over. The second is this. Second is more important. And the Professor Nettleson said, for any legal professionals, they know that what that sentence means. Okay, the first sentence is the main sentence. The second sentence is a subordinate clause. Legally, it's called a proviso. Proviso. So what is proviso? Provisos traditionally are interpreted narrowly, leaving the earlier language, the first half, to be interpreted broadly. Okay, this is still maybe a little mysterious. Okay, so it means that the first part is the main part. The second part only works when the first part has problems. In short, the very intention of the founding father putting that in is because if the state failed to elect senators or representatives, there's some emergency, for some reason they don't want to conform to this federal election, they don't want to elect senators or representatives, or some kind of rebellion happen, things like that. At that time, the Congress shall have a right to step in and make the election still happen. That's the very purpose of that. And one could argue that, what you said seems to be a theory, but it's not in the Constitution. Who knows?
Yeah, it's arguable, right?
Yeah, but no. The Professor Nettleson said at that time when this clause, the Constitution was passed based upon the public assurance that the proviso is there, and then it will be interpreted that way. And over the history, it was indeed interpreted that way by the court. So the history of a clause matters. Okay, to provide the meaning and the definition behind that clause. It's not just literal reading, literal interpretation. So the very reason is that clause is there only when the state failed to do its job. And this is only limited to the congressional election. Okay, it's a proviso. And then now Nancy Pelosi and congressional Democrats just took it out, make that as the base for a broad application. A broad use of their power.
Okay,
so completely rewrite the national law.
Yeah, without the context.
And the bottom line is this. Okay, the professor said the drafter of H.R. 1 was wrong to proclaim unlimited power to regulate the federal election and campaigns. And on the contrary, the election clause, this very clause, grants Congress only limited authority. A runaway Congress shall never be permitted to seize more power than the Constitution gives it. And finally, I need to say this. Okay, the very reason why that's a subordinate clause is because if you take that out as itself, it's very, very dangerous. It cannot be the founding fathers' meaning because it means the Congress can decide how to election themselves.
Right.
The Congress can decide at any time how to elect themselves. That's against common sense.
Right?
So it was and it is a proviso. It is subordinate. It's narrowly interpreted. It can never be used as the base for HR1.
But what could happen then?
Yeah, what would happen? That's a good question because if I share my point of view, okay, my understanding, my limited point of view, and my understanding is it will pass House, and it will pass Senate. When I say
I think it's already passed the House.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in Senate now.
Passing Senate is a big deal, right, guys? Because Senate, the Republican will use filibuster to block it. Filibuster, it takes 60 votes to break the filibuster. And the Democrat will never have 60 votes. Okay, but they have 51 votes. And that's enough. That's enough to do away with the filibuster completely or in certain manner. So they're going to use their way to do away with the filibuster on this particular issue or even on all issues. Okay, the only barrier is in the hand of Democrats. That's the current situation. So when they push this, sooner or later, this case will be going to the Supreme Court. Traditionally, I would feel pretty safe about the ruling of the Supreme Court because they know the law, they know the Constitution. Anyway, but after last year's, what happened last year's, who knows? We don't know. So anyway, so if they do away with the filibuster, they're going to push this through. And along with that, there's a lot of other changes as we heard about, right? Like this 30 years annual bill about adding the Washington, D.C. as the 51 state or the Puerto Rico as the 51 state. That has been that has been support on the Democrat side all along those years. And so, yeah, a lot of things are at stake.
Yeah, so probably people will ask, then what can we do, right?
Yeah, so...
yeah, I saw Twinkly said that we can also use our state legislature to fight back.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Okay, there's 28 founding principles of America, which I'm making a 45 episode in Chinese and in English. I'm working on that project. It will probably take about three months. But anyway, so among them, the founding principles, the 19th one, I'll quickly just say that. 19th one, we know that we have these three branches, right? Three check and balance, three different governmental branches, legislature, executive, and the jurisdiction, which is on the federal level. There's another check and balance between, basically, we have two solvents here. One is the federal, another government is the state. So when the state, when the federal government become too powerful, it will become a central tyranny, and so it needs to. When that happens, the state needs to curb that. That's what's happening today. If the state become too powerful, and they will become how to say, the country will disintegrate or fall apart, and the federal needs to step in. So this is another check and balance that is enshrined by put in place by the Constitution. And then that has to do another thing, which is the Constitutional Amendment, the 17, which altered how to elect senators. Senators was elected by state legislatures. That's how the state check and balance upon the federal government was ensured, because the senators have to listen to the state senate and the state assembly. Okay, that was done away with in 1912. Okay, out of literally ignorance, literal ignorance. So in short, I think all those 300 bill here, 800 bill there, who's gonna win, who has the advantage, those matters. But I think those matter, but those are not essential thing. Essential thing is the country, the people in this country. We need to go back to our root, learn about the Constitution, learn about all the values behind our Constitution. At that time, we'll be all crystal clear that what we should do.
Yeah, get educated, be
Yeah.
informed. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I want you to, want to say to you, and yeah, hopefully it's some use. Yeah, you will find this valuable, and gosh, joke again.
Where is hesitated.
Okay, so I cannot have every joke related to the topic of the day, just for the sake of having some fun, right? How about that?
Okay.
Just
Yeah,
treat this as
it's a weekend, right?
Yeah, just treat this as another like a entertainment piece. How about that? Hopefully you'll like it. Because I talk about the parrots, right? We talk about parrots all the time in Soviet Union, right? You lost a parrot, you got very nervous. If it speak what you said, you are be in jail.
Yeah. What if it is speak truth?
Yeah. So how good a parrot can imitate one's speech become a big issue, right? That's also the reason why people want to own parrot, right? They can learn how to talk.
Right.
So anyway, there's auction. There's an auction, right? So somebody went to an auction and tried to buy a very, very smart parrot. There was a parrot, being auctioned, and then he wanted to buy it. It looks very beautiful, and he never owned a parrot, so he wants to give it a try. So the bidding started, and he said, $100. Okay, somebody was saying that. 105. Okay, really? 200. Or the other person said, 205.
No, that's normal. You bid.
Yeah, but he make a determination. He has been wanting a parrot for many years. He finally come to the auction site, and he make a determination. I'm gonna get it no matter what. So he raised to $500. $500.
Oh.
3 seconds later, the other guy said, 505. And he got so mad. What's going on here? $500 just for a bird, and I couldn't get it. $1,000.
Wow.
The
He's
other-
really determined.
Yeah, the other voice said 1,005.
Wow, not giving up.
Yeah, so he really started getting mad, right? He just, I got to win this bidding. This is getting personal. So he then 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, and finally it reached 10,000.
Gosh.
10,000.
Wow.
Finally, he won. Okay, and he feel very exhausted. Okay.
Oh, he doesn't feel happy?
Yeah, $10,000 for a bird, right?
Oh,
so
gosh.
he was taking over his award. The parrot, he was a little concerned. He was asking the owner, can the bird learn to talk? The owner said, of course. He's been beating with you all the times. Hope you like it. We gotta have some laughters, right? And that's the joke at the end of the show for today.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, happy Easter, everyone. Take care and have a great weekend.
Okay. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye bye.